Welcome back everybody to Orange Track Outlaws, and today we are going to tackle the restoration of this 1970 Hot Wheels Redline Cockney cab. So as you can see, this guy here has got some major paint damage, so we're definitely going to fix that. It looks like the windshield's got some issues. It's got some crazy wheels on right there. Oh, nope. Sorry, missing the caps, missing the Redline caps. So we're going to replace those, get that thing looking good. We're going to get that engine polished up. We're going to get that paint looking good, and we're going to basically give this bad boy get this thing looking pretty much next to new, or as best as we can. Should be pretty cool. Should look good here. Hoping you guys are going to enjoy it. So let's dive right in here and let's start getting this bad boy apart. Here comes our little project here on our custom hauler, our Cockney cab Redline. Get this bad boy unloaded and let's get a little quick peek at her, and then we're going to get into taking this thing apart. So this thing does have a little bit of a loose engine. I'll show you when we take it apart. It doesn't really fasten, which I didn't know. I found that out. I thought it would fasten, but it's not. It's not broke. So since this is an older Redline and you got to start drilling out the post, they have a somewhat of a mushroom head on them there. So it's kind of hard to drill out without putting a little hole punch in there. So that's what I like doing, getting the hole punch in there, getting something to start on for that drill bit. I start with my smaller bit that I drill the post out with, the 256 bit, and just get a little pilot hole going, and then get the bigger bit in there, get the head off. And lucky for me, this one only had one post, so it should be pretty easy. So get this thing apart, and you can see there how the engine just kind of sits in there over the axle in the chassis, and really just kind of hangs out in there. So interior, not much going there, just gonna have to give that a good cleaning. The windshield is definitely gonna need a sanding, and we'll dunk it in floor polish like usual, and we'll get this chassis all cleaned up, shining up, polished up. Same with that engine, polish that guy up. And look at our body here. This paint's really worn out, so we're gonna hit it with the sandblaster, get it cleaned up. So here's our chassis fresh out of the sandblaster, and straight into the wire wheel box. Get this thing cleaned up, and it should be usually it looks good, really good, after wire wheeling it, getting all the residue off from the sandblaster. But we're gonna hit it with a little polish anyway, just to put it over the edge and get it just a little bit more shiny, as much as we can. So let's run our wire wheel over this real quick. Get it all the nooks and crannies out there, and it turns out actually really nice. Now we're going to try and hit the wire wheelie on the engine, which is a little bit more difficult. You have to be slow and patient with it, or that wheel will catch an edge or something, and it'll just whip it right out of your hand. So you need to be careful when it comes to that. The headlights are molded into that too, and you don't want to risk busting those things off, because you really have some problems. So our engine's looking good here. We got it all cleaned up out of the polish, or out of the sandblaster. Now it's time for our body. Same thing here. We're just going to hit it with the wire wheel, and that thing did take no time out in the sandblaster. These older cars, especially when they got missing a lot of paint like that sandblaster peels it off real quick. You don't have to spend much time in there, really just a pass or two, get all that old stuff off, and it really shouldn't hurt the body. So I'll show you this here real quick after I get all that stuff cleaned off of there. So turned out actually really good. I think it looks really nice. We did clean it up with a little 4/0 steel wool, and then we're going to hit this thing with a little bit of the Flitz metal polish. So this one there's really not a lot of surface area there, but there's a lot of holes and gaps in this body, so You gotta go nice and slow, especially on on the RPMs on the wheel, so it doesn't grab onto anything and knock that body out of your hand, which it will do. That's for sure. So go nice and slow. Go all around that thing. Get all that polish. Get all that polish worked in. This one is, I think, with as nice as the body is, I think it's going to look really good here. That's for sure. So as we get all this polish off, there's a lot of, since there's a lot of thin lines and a lot of hard places to get in and out of, I'm going to get as much of the polish off as I can. And if there's some left over, I'm not too worried about it. A little bit of warm soapy water. We're going to clean this thing up with when we're done polishing, and it'll get. Usually it takes 2 or 3 good scrubs with the toothbrush and some soap and water, but it'll get whatever left over of the polish you couldn't get. It'll get that stuff off. Wipe it down with a cloth when we're done, and she should look real good here. That's for sure. So we're just about done with this guy, hopefully, and I'll bring it out of the booth here and give you a quick look here before I go to paint. So I think it's going to turn out pretty well. So let's take a quick look here. It is shining a lot more. It's not the best look here, and there's a lot of things there with the camera and the angle and some leftover, but we're going to go with Spectra Flame Magenta like it was from the Redline shop. Add a little hardener in there and we'll be ready to paint. Like I said, I did clean this with soap and water 3 or 4 times before I went to paint, and I cleaned all that off, dried it well, polished it up with a little cloth to get any extra residue off there, and I think it looked pretty good. So I felt I was okay to go to paint. So first coat here, tack coat as usual. Get it nice and light. Make sure you get everything covered. Let it dry a little bit, and then we'll go in here with coat 2 and try to layer it up just a little bit more. Not too bad though, we can take our time here and keep adding layers, and it'll keep adding color and richening it up. So there's really no hurry here. Have you a nice little bourbon in between coats if you got one. That's what I like to do. So coat 2 look pretty good. It's looking more that purple magenta color. So we're going to move on here to coat 3. And so we're going to start trying to build that color up and really bring that purple out and see how it does here. I think we're going to go with one more coat after this, which would make 4, and I think that'll give us the color that we're looking for, and basically bring it back to that brand new color that it should be. So here's a look at coat 3. You can see it's looking really good here, but it's just not quite as dark and as that magenta purple that I want. So we're going to hit this bad boy up one more time with the 4th coat, and we're going to try to layer this on pretty good. And once we're done here, I think it'll be good. So we're really going to try and hit it here. We got a good base going, and I think the color is really starting to come out. So, and you can go on if you would like to keep going. You don't have to stop here at 4. If you want to get more color on there and try to darken it up, richen it up, by all means go for it. So while our body is going to dry, we're going to go back to our chassis here and try to get this thing polished up to a good shine. So back to the booth here with our polishing wheel and our Dremel tool, and we're just going to try to work this in here as best we can. Now these chassis are, for me, it's kind of a pain in the butt with all the exhaust molds and all the writing on stuff on the bottom. Getting through it and getting it all off of there can be difficult. So this thing, you're definitely going to have to put it in the soapy water bath and toothbrush and get all that excess off of there, and then you can dry it and just polish it up with a little towel when you're done, and you should be good to go, really. since I was able to keep the axles in place, because it's got that molded in tab in the middle that keeps the axles in place. I was able to keep that there, didn't have to take it out. So really all I'm gonna have to do is clean them wheels up a little bit and snap some new caps on there. At least it should work. Hoping it looks good. So here's a look at our chassis here. So guys, we got everything cleaned up. I think we're ready for assembly here. We have our interior. All that took was a soapy water bath. So we have our chassis here all polished and cleaned up. We have our new Redline caps popped on there. Everything's nice and polished and shiny and it's looking good. Pretty happy how that came out. I did have to fix the rear corner of the bumper with a little paper clip tip. That was kind of a pain, but it looks good. We did polish up our engine here. That thing's looking shiny. It looked good. This thing turned out real well, this windshield. I did have to wet sand this with 1000 grit and 1500 grit. Then I polished it up, and then I soaked it or dunked it in some Pledge floor polish. So here's our body here. Everything looks nice and shiny magenta. I like it. I even added the Cockney cab decal on the back just to finish that guy off. So let's start putting this bad boy back together. Like I said in the first part of the video, this thing did only have one post, which was really kind of nice. These old Redlines have real thin posts, so I like to use, I think usually the 256 screws and drill bit tends to be a little too fat for my liking, and you can really easily blow out a post. So I tend to go with the one size smaller, which is the 172. It's a real thin drill bit. It is pretty flexible and brittle, so if you go pushing too hard, it'll break, and it'll break easy and quick. So take your time with that, that's for sure. But it does still leave, I guess, a little meat on the bone there on the post when you drill your hole for your screws for something to bite onto. So that's what I like to use for these, and I don't have any self-tapping screws for those 172, so I did have to tap that post out, and I did that before I painted off camera. So kind of a boring procedure there, so no need to show it. But anyway, just about ready to finish up assembly here. Had a little bit of trouble getting that dang windshield to snap back in there, but it ended up making it. So chassis is pretty easy. We just got to lock in that rear tab and line the post hole up and put our one screw in here, and we'll be good to go. Be able to get this bad boy up on the turntable and show you guys our finished restoration. As soon as I get everything all squared away here, make sure it's all looking right, we'll pop our little screw in here. Now you definitely got to be careful, since these screws are small and the post is real thin, that you can't crank down these screws. You got to get it nice and tight and stop, or you will break something, whether the post or the head of the screw. And trust me, you don't want to have to try to fix that. So I think we're all done here. Let's go back a quick minute here, take a look at what we started with. This is our 1970 Hot Wheels Redline Cockney cab. Pretty cool, unique little car. This one here looks like it's been played with plenty. Played with, lost all its wheels. It's probably thrown in a car box a handful of times. All that paint's gone, but anyway, we fixed that up nice and neat. Take a look at our fresh restore here. This thing's back to shiny. It's back to new, or as next to new as we can get it, minus a little scratch right there on the side of the window. But I didn't feel it was necessary to get a new windshield for this. It still turned out nice. So really happy with this. This thing looks pretty sweet. It's going to look good in my case. I want to thank you guys again for watching another video of mine. Hope you enjoyed this restoration, and check out the rest of my channel. There's There's some other cool restorations. There's some pretty cool customs on there. There's a lot of races, guys. If you guys like the racing thing, I'm into the racing thing. I'm on the hunt for the fastest Hot Wheels. I just every time I see a car, I wonder how fast it's going to be. So, gotta race them. I don't know. It's just something I gotta do. But anyway, thanks again, guys, and check out everything else. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell, thumbs up, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.